Thank you for joining. I know some of you have probably been through this before. If you have, great. If not, if you've been to any of my trainings, you know this is very interactive. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand or jump in or stop me at any point. I know I have a tendency to go rather quickly sometimes through these, and I don't want to lose anyone in the process. So can everyone see? Hold on, let me share my screen. Sorry, I should have been sharing my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, so essentially, in a nutshell, whenever we put out a new functionality, there's a lot of talk and confusion around them. So I want to try to break this down to the most simplest parts of this. It's not very confusing, but it can sound confusing. What it essentially does is it allows you to send a lot of travelers at the same time to the same place, generally speaking, very quickly, and keep track of those travelers, where they are, as well as the expenditures associated with that travel. So the second bullet here, you see manage, administer, and report on employee deployments from a unified central means. This is not new or custom technology. We're just using the existing Concur functionality that's in the system. It is in the preview test environment. I do encourage everyone to play with it there, test it out there, get a feel for it there. But it is also turned on in production as well. It doesn't do anything in production if you do not have, you'll see this important bullet here. It doesn't do anything, and you can only see the functionality if you have the UFMS High Glass NBS system admin role in your profile or higher. Okay. So you'll only see that functionality if you have that, and that will allow you to create a parent authorization. We'll get into these details in a little bit more detail in a second. It'll allow you to create the parent authorization, blanket travel lists, and have access to certain status codes, which you'll only see for this functionality. So again, your average user, your travelers, regular FADAs at this point in time will not even see this functionality. And your operating division determines who will have those roles in their profiles to have access to this functionality. Okay. Are there any questions so far? All right, great. So as I mentioned, it's very, very simple once you understand the 5 steps. Excuse me. There are 5 steps to using Surge Blanket Travel. First step is you're going to create a parent authorization. Now, your parent authorization, think of it like what's the best way to think of it? Like a hierarchy, right? You have your parent up here, then you're going to have a model child. We'll talk about that. And then all of your children are underneath that. But your parent kind of oversees and is the glue that holds everything together. Doesn't really do much except act as glue, okay, and allow you to report on the travel and things like that. It ties everybody together, kind of like a big bow around a Christmas or birthday present. So that's your parent. Then you're going to create your Surge Blanket traveler list. So you're just going to create a list. So kind of like, okay, you're going to name your list. This list is travel to, I don't know, Kenya. Okay. And then you're going to add travelers to that list. And only the people you add to that list can be part of that particular mission. Okay. So that's important to remember. So you're going to add your travelers to your list, trip to Kenya. And then you're going to create a model child. Now, your model child is going to be just that, the perfect child. It's going to be the perfect trip for everybody else to follow after. So you're going to put in there any expenses that you think that traveler may need for that particular trip, whether it's baggage or parking or gas. You're going to add everything to that, the line of accounting as well, etc. And then you're just going to take that model and you're going to copy it to any travelers that are on your list. And then you can manipulate those child authorizations however you see fit, take off an expense, add an expense, and add your reservations, and then process those child authorizations as normal. So there are 5 steps. Create your parent, create your list, add your travelers to that list, create your model, and then copy that model child and create your child authorizations. Any questions on this slide? Okay, and at the end of this training, just so you're aware, Mary is on the call. She's going to do a demo for you in the system so you can actually see real world what this looks like. We do have screenshots in here for you, but obviously seeing things real time can be a benefit as well. Okay, so this is just a recap of what we've already discussed. The addition in this slide, though, that's important is that the combination of surge blanket travel and cross-funded allows you a capability you never had before. So you can literally take travelers from, other groups and add them to your traveler list, groups you don't necessarily have access to normally, add them to your traveler list, make them cross-funded, and travel them like that. Okay. Okay, so technical features, and this is where we get into the finer points of the 5 steps I just described to you. Your parent authorization, again, what you're going to see in the system, so when you go into the system and you go to your authorizations tab, and if you'd like to follow along while I'm going through this, some people do find that beneficial as well if you have a second screen. Under new authorizations, if you have that role, you'll see the option to create a new auth in the dropdown. And you'll also see a new document type there with auth called limited open auth. So your parent and only your parent is created as that particular document type called limited open auth. Okay. That document is created, edited, owned, and viewed only by the people with that role in their profile. It is not submitted to the financial systems and will never be vouchered from. It cannot be vouchered from. Okay. It itself goes through 3 stages, just 3. Created, then you'll apply the surge parent active stamp to it. And that you just leave it in that state when the mission is ongoing and people are still traveling. And then once that mission is completed and you're not adding any additional child authorizations or anything like that to this particular trip, then you'll stamp it surge parent lock just to lock the document so no more authorizations can be associated with it. Okay. And again, those 2 status codes you will only see when you are working with a limited open auth document type and you have the UFMS high glass role or high glass role in your profile. Okay. So your next step is after you've created your parent, you're going to create member number 2 is we're going to create our traveler list. And again, that's created to add travelers and allow child authorizations to be created for specific travelers. So child authorization, your model child is created by you. Okay, so you're going to create your parent and then a model. You're going to add all of your predetermined expenses to that model child document. Then you're going to copy that as many times as necessary to your travelers. And again, the model child is also not submitted to the financial systems and will never be vouchered either. It's just that it is a model. It's a showroom. I know in neighborhoods, they actually sell the model houses. In this case, they're just going to sit empty. So we never voucher that. Child authorizations can only be associated to parents by those travelers who are on your surge blanket traveler list. And we're going to show you that when they go, if say for instance, Janelle Chapman is on my surge blanket traveler list. When she goes into her authorization, she will have the ability to associate her authorization with the parent that I've created. If someone is not on that list, they will not have that ability to associate their document with that parent. And we'll show you that again in some screenshots in the demo in a little bit. Cross-funded functionality is enabled for this and can be used. But again, if you put a can on the model child, but you need to change it or the line of accounting or the object class code for whatever reason on an actual child authorization that will go to the financial system, you can make that change per authorization. Okay. And again, nothing is sent to the financial systems except the child authorizations that are created from the model. Okay. So all child authorizations except the model are submitted to the financial systems and will be processed as normal. Any questions so far? Again, if you have any questions, feel free to jump right in. Okay, so again, here's your screenshots that I promised you. The parent authorization document type is limited open auth. You can see here on the new authorization tab in Concur You'll, just like you see now, your traveler name, the cross-funding organization box, and then the document type. You'll have two options there. You'll have off and limited open off. Okay. And again, if it is cross-funded, you would simply choose the cross-funded organization at that point. If it's not, you would just leave that blank. Now-
Melissa, real quick, Rube, I saw your hand go up. Did you have something?
Yes, sorry, Melissa. I just wanted to confirm, can one parent have multiple model child authorizations?
Sure, you could do that.
Good copy. That's all I wanted to confirm.
Absolutely. You just have to make sure, again, that your model child never gets processed through to vouchering. But yeah, you could create several. Yeah, absolutely. Sure, good. Never thought about it. So good question. But yeah, you could. Okay, so the type code on your parent document is going to be limited open off. This is the only time you're going to choose that type code. It's the only time it's going to be available is when your document type is the limited open off as well. So if you've chosen your document type as limited open off, you will have the type code option of limited open off as well. If you chose regular authorization as your document type, you will not have this type code available to you. Okay, just so you know. So you choose that type code. Once you choose that type code, a radio button saying surge blanket travel will populate, and you just want to make sure that's checked, okay, for surge blanket travel. All right, so again, we're on your parent. One of the differences you're going to see on your parent document that you've probably never seen before is a per diem override. It's going to, when you go to enter your itinerary location on that screen, you're going to have to, it's required to choose to override by cost or by days. You're going to choose by days. And all you're doing here really is you're putting in here, we see maximum lodging days and maximum M&IE days. You're just going to put the length of the mission, the entire length of the mission. Remember, this is your parent. You're the one setting the rules here, right? So if you think this is going to be a 2-month trip, you put in 2 months. That does not mean that your child authorizations all are going to be 2 months. Your child authorizations can be shortened to any time or any days in those in that span of time. So within that 2 months. So they're not going to always be the full 2 months. You can make it a week out of those 2 months. You can make it 2 days out of those 2 months. But on the parent, you want to make sure it does encompass the entire length of the trip. Okay. All right, now you're going to see this. If you did choose cross-funding, when you created your parent, your CAN options again are automatically going to default to the cross-funding organization. You can see here is defaulted to a CDC organization. The accounting structure is a CDC accounting structure, and therefore the CANs will be CDC CANs. Okay. If you do not choose cross-funded, all of this will default to your organization data. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Because this parent is going to be created under your name. Again, it's not going to be vouchered or anything like that, but it will be under your name and all of the settings associated with your profile. Okay, and as we've seen before, if it is cross-funded, the organization is going to automatically populate as the cross-funded organization, and your routing list should be changed to the proper routing list. Again, it's not routing anywhere, but consistency is good. So you want your parent and your model to be in sync with each other. So go ahead and change the routing list to the cross-funded CDC. It actually says cross-funded CDC in production routing list, just so it is consistent with what your model is going to look like. Okay, now the other thing you're going to want to note about the parent authorization is you're not going to add any expenses to it. That's not what the parent is for. The parent is really just a ribbon that ties everything together. It does not do anything else. Okay, so keep that in mind. So when you look at, if you look at the document, you're going to see your voucher fee, you're going to see surge blanket travel fee. There's also, I think that's actually on the children. You're going to see your lodging, your M&IE, and those are going to show the dates. The amount is going to be based on the dates that you put in there times the per diem. So if you put in a month, it's going to be 30 or 31 days times whatever that per diem happens to be for lodging and M&IE. But again, it's not going anywhere. It just adds that because that's part of the normal functionality of the system. But just so you know what you're going to see in there, you're not going to see anything else. And you're going to see your voucher fee, which you're never going to pay because you're not going to voucher. Okay. All righty then. Okay. So once you've created the parent, and all you really need to do is update the routing list. And if you want to look at, like I said, at the expenses, but you're not adding expenses to it. So really just changing the routing list. Once you've done that, you're going to want to sign your document. Now, it's going to be in the awaiting the sign stamp, of course, like they all are, but you're not going to apply the sign stamp, okay? Because you don't want to route this document, okay? But you're going to click sign document and change your status to apply from signed to Surge Parent Active, like we discussed previously. And then once you do that, you'll see your status, and that's the great thing about this. When you go to look at your list of authorizations, two things are going to stick out to you. Well, three things really. Is your document type is going to stand out. It will say limited open auth. This screenshot, I'm sorry, is from preview. Will say limited open auth instead of off. Okay, when you're viewing your authorization list in Concur. The other thing is this yes box tells you whether or not it's cross-funded, yes or no for cross-funded. And then your status is going to be Surge Parent Active. So you know you have an open parent cross-funded document that is active just by looking at that in your authorization list. Okay. Any questions so far? Great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to step 2, which is creating your Surge Blanket Traveler list. All right. So what you're going to want to do is, if you've been following along, if you haven't, take a look at this either in preview or production. When you go to your authorizations tab and you have your options, your normal options, view authorizations, new authorization, or search authorizations, you'll also see Surge Blanket Traveler lists as an option. You're going to want to click on that, and then this screenshot will appear, and you'll see all of this. The TA number is going to be a drop down, and it's going to show the TA number of the parent you just created. Okay, so this is where we're kind of tying the parent to the children. So it's going to show that, and you're going to pick that. And it's also got your travel dates in there, which is pretty neat. So it helps you keep track so you don't actually have to remember the TANM. You can give it whatever list name you want to give it. Remember, I said trip to Kenya. You can call it a trip to Disney World, whatever you want to call it. That's up to you. The list ID you will not be able to populate. That is auto-generated by Concur, so just leave that blank. It won't let you type in that box anyway. It's going to auto-populate your event date, start date, and end date based on what you put in the parent, and that's, again, tied to what you chose in the drop-down here. And then you can put whatever notes in here you'd like to put in with regards, kind of like the document detail section. You can put whatever you want in there. Just again, I would be remiss if I didn't remind everyone, please do not use special characters in Concur in this field or in Concur anywhere in Concur, including the document detail fields in regular documents. Okay, so pretty simple, and then just going to click Save. Okay, once you've done that, what you're going to see is you're still going to see what you entered up here, but you're going to see a couple of changes. The list ID is going to be completed. Again, Concur auto generates that, and it's just a number. So your list ID is number 60. And then at the bottom of your screen, it's going to populate with your active lists. So now that you've created a list, you have one. You have an active list. List number 60. Here's the name. The TANM number it's based off of. The end date of the event based on, again, the parent, what you put into the parent, the notes you put in there, how many current travelers you have and total travelers you have as part of that list. Okay. Now we're going to add travelers. There's 2 ways you can add travelers to this list. You can do it manually or via an import. And we're going to go through how to do it both ways. We're going to start with manually though. So to do that, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to see here on your list, you only have a couple of hyperlinks here. You want to click that 60. You can see it's a blue hyperlink. So just click that list ID number 60. And once you do that, you're going to get this box that's going to pop up that says list 60 actions. And it's going to give you a couple other options here. You can say edit list information, manage travelers, change history, delete this list, or copy this list. In this case, we're going to click on manage travelers because we're going to add travelers. Okay. And once you click on manage travelers, your screen's going to refresh again. And now you're going to see this button because now you're actually in the list. And you'll see here, it says manage travelers at the top of your screen, search blanket traveler information. It gives you the TANM, the list name you gave it, your list ID, your notes, and the event dates. But you're going to click on add travelers. Okay. So to do this manually, after you've clicked on add travelers, you're going to get a new screen. Okay, and it's going to pop up and say select the traveler, select traveler. You're going to enter the traveler's name that you're trying to add to your list in this box that says traveler name. Couple of things here. The first thing is you have to add yourself. I would add yourself first, okay? Because you do need to be on this list to create the model child. So rule of thumb, go ahead and put yourself in as your manual. I would do it manually. It's just easier to do it that way for yourself since you're already creating your list. Add yourself here, okay? Now, this particular box, again, every search box when you're searching for travelers in Concur, as we all know, have their own little weird ways to search best. I have found that entering the last name, comma, space first name is the best way to get the most accurate list to return. If you start with the first name, I don't think that's really going to work well, at least from my experience. So this is how I would recommend doing it: is last name, comma, first name. Okay. So you're going to click on that traveler. Okay, so you're going to choose whatever traveler based on the drop-down list that you get. And then once you do that, a new box is going to pop up, and it's going to give you the overall event dates. So that's really good. So you're going to see the overall event dates. But now it's going to say, well, what dates is this person actually traveling within that month? So for this example, you can see here it's August 1st through August 31st. But I don't want Nakia to travel for that whole month necessarily, right? So I'm going to be able to put her specific dates in here. So you're going to click on specify travel dates. And again, they can be any dates within the event dates. Okay. In this particular situation, we are going to change Nakia's to her start date of 8/8 through 8/19. So she's going to travel in the middle of the month, but not the whole time. Okay. So you're going to make sure that you put her dates in there. Okay. And again, you can change these dates on the actual child authorization if necessary. But you want to make sure that again, consistency is really important here. So I would make sure that these do match as closely as possible as you know what she's actually going to travel. Okay. All right. And then you're just going to put her dates in and click save. And then the screen is going to refresh for you again. And then you'll come back to your search blanket traveler information list. You'll see Nakia has been added here. Her organization, the organization her profile is in, is listed here, as well as you can see underneath her, that's going to be her HHS ID. So it says N Gorham 12345. This is the test profiles. Otherwise, it would be a normal HHS ID. The start date of her travel, the end date of her travel, who modified her, that would be me, and when I modified her, okay, in this. So it gives you quite a bit of information. Are there any questions on how to manually add a traveler to a search blanket traveler list before we move on how to import? Moving on to importing. Okay, so to do it by import, which if you have 5 people that are going on a mission, it's probably easier just to do it manually, right? If you have 50, you might want to go ahead and do an import. It's really up to you. It's just a matter of your preference on how you'd like to do it. The import is easy. I know there's a lot of screenshots and 1s, 2s, and 3s and 4s on here, but it's actually easier than it looks. So what you're going to do is you're going to, we have embedded this here and we'll share this with you. Let's see if I can even open it without, I think I did this last time. Open it for you so you can see. You're going to fill out the import spreadsheet. And it's very simple. I have way too many monitors. These are the fields you have to fill out. It's not a whole lot. So you're gonna have your action, which is add, the list ID that you're associating your traveler with. You don't need to fill out C. D is going to be the HHS ID of the traveler. If you have the HHS ID, you do not need the traveler's org or their name. The system will automatically know that based on their HHS ID and populate that for you once you do the import, and then the dates they're going to travel. Okay. So that's what you would fill out for your 50 people if you wanted to do an import. Okay. So once you've done that and you're ready to import, what you're going to do is actually the first thing you're going to do is when you're on your search blanket traveler information tab is you'll see here, Nikia's here. I can manually add travelers, or I can click over here on this hyperlink that says import traveler list. I'm going to click on that. And when I do that, a box is going to pop up. It's going to say import traveler list. So the first thing you do, that's why they're numbered, is import traveler list. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to browse for your file. So you're going to click browse, find your file and put there. Then another box is going to pop up and ask you, what do you want to do with this file? We're going to click upload, and then you're going to click import. So these two screens will be open at the same time. So you're going to browse, upload, and then import. And then once you've done that, you can click close on this box and your screen will refresh, and it does only take a few seconds. So it's very quick. One of the few things in Concur that's actually very quick. And then the travelers that you imported will immediately be on your list, and you'll see them listed down here with Nikia. Okay. Any questions? All right, moving on.
I do have a question. This is Waldo.
Sure.
Melissa, quick question. So we work off rosters that we receive from like Rams, for example. So we can't import those rosters. We have to actually create a new list. And then upload that, import that. That's how it's gonna work, or we're not.
Yeah, I
We
don't
won't be
know.
able to use.
Yeah, I don't know what your current roster looks like. So I don't know what details it captures, the current roster that you use. But again, you would have to use this format. Yes. So I guess what I'm getting at is if there's anything you can copy and paste into this template, then that'd be great. Like the HHS ID, that would make your life pretty easy. But no, you could not take whatever format you have and just import that. It does have to be in this particular document type, has to be a CSV, and it does have to be in this format. Did that answer your question?
And those columns that were specified on that import template
Yeah.
that you just provided.
Yeah, I can pull that up again, but yes. So you can
Okay.
actually take, I mean, if you want to take, again, you can create your own CSV as long as these columns are on it. It doesn't do anything special. It's just a CSV file, but these columns have to be there. And you don't need, again, most of them are blank. You don't really do anything with most of them. But these particular columns, traveler ID, action, list ID, and your trip dates do have to be in there.
Okay.
Okay. And again, it has to be a CSV.
Thank you.
Okay. Great question. All right. Now, moving on to the model child. So you've added yourself to the traveler list. You've created your parent. Actually, let me do that in the right order. You've created the parent. You've created your search blanket traveler list. You've added yourself to the search blanket traveler list, as well as your actual travelers, right? So now what you're going to want to do is you're going to create your model, right? So again, you're just going to go to new authorizations, only this time you're going to choose auth as your document type. Okay, so the only time again that you choose limited open auth is when you're creating the parent. That is the only time. Every other time, it's just a regular authorization. Okay. If the mission is cross-funded, make sure that you do choose the proper cross-funding organization, and your document type again is auth. Okay. And then you're going to click next. And again, your trip dates for your model child, you want them to be the entire trip. All right. So here is the important part that you're going to want to keep in mind for your model. So you're going to do here what you normally do. You're going to put in your trip name, your type code, your normal type code, whatever that happens to be for this particular mission, your trip purpose, your document detail, whatever you want to call that. But you're going to have a box here that says add. Remember I said that you can, if you're on that Surge Blanket Traveler list, that you'll have the option to tie your authorization to the parent. This is that option. Add travel to open, group, or Surge Blanket Travel off. And here is your parent. Okay, here is your parent authorization. So you're just going to click that drop down and choose the parent. So once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and go into your itinerary, enter your location, and put the entire trip dates again. So you're going to mirror the parent here in your model. Remember, I said you want to keep your model and your parent as close together as possible in terms of consistency. So you're going to put the same trip dates into your model, the entire mission. All right. Now, what you are going to see is the Surge Blanket travel. I'm saying the label. So this is your line of accounting. Sorry, I named it Surge Blanket Travel Demo. So you do want to put your line of accounting in here. Okay, it should, if you added it to the parent, it should populate from the parent, but you don't have to add it to the parent. You can just add it to the child. When you copy the child, it will copy with it. So if you put it in the parent, that's fine. It'll auto populate here. If you haven't, you'll have to add it yourself to the model. Okay. So moving on, expenses again. So you are going to want to navigate to your expense tab. You're going to see your Surge Blanket travel fee. Don't be surprised by that. Concur does charge 45 cents for Surge Blanket travel fees for usage of the functionality. But you are going to want to navigate to your expenses tab. Obviously, your lodging, MIE, and all that's going to populate automatically for you. But any forecasted expenses for the entire trip, you're also going to want to add. And again, expenses can be added or removed from the child authorizations once you've cloned it or copied this model to an actual active child that will be processed and vouchered. Okay. And again, you're going to want to update your routing list on the profile tab to the proper cross-funded routing list, provided you used cross-funding for this. Okay. So once you've done that, you're just going to save it. You're never going to process this. Okay. So you're going to lock this again in the future. But you're going to copy it first. So what you're going to want to do is to copy it, you are going to need the HHS ID of the travelers, which is given to you in your Surge Blanket traveler list. You're going to need that HHS ID to copy your model child. Okay. Now, first things first, whoever you're copying to have to be on that Surge Blanket traveler list. All right. Then you're going to locate your model child from your list of authorizations. You're going to click on your blue hyperlink, and then you're going to get the option to copy document. It's important to note that if you look at this authorization from your recent authorizations page in Concur, you won't see the copy document option. You do have to look at the document from the View Authorizations tab to see the copy document. So you just want to click Copy Document. And once you do that, you're going to get this screen on the right that is going to populate for you. Again, you have to have that HHS ID. But once you click Copy Document, the screenshot on the right is going to pre-populate all the information from the document you're copying. And then it's going to ask you for destination document details. And this is where you're just going to paste in or type in, however you want to do it, the HHS ID number into this field, the TID field. And then you can just hit Tab 2 times. You can hit the magnifying glass if you want, and Concur will search for that traveler for you. If you hit Tab 2 times, it'll also do it. It just saves you a little bit of time. Once you do that, it will add the name of the traveler associated with that HHS ID you just entered, create a new document name and a new TANF, and then click Save. Okay. And then once you click Save, you'll get another box that pops up that says the document was copied successfully. You can just press OK to click out of that. And now you have your cloned child. Okay. Now, if you don't want to create the model child as yourself, you can create, and I don't recommend this just because it adds a level of complexity to Surge Blanket travel that is kind of unnecessary. You can create a quote unquote fake profile for yourself and name it whatever you want. So you can have a different traveler name, you can name it, for instance, primary child off. First name primary, last name child off. However you want to do that, and then create the model using that person, using that profile. Again, it just adds a level of complexity, but you can do that if you want to keep things more separate from your own profile. Okay. So again, you're going to locate your new child authorization by either acting as that traveler or acting as all users to whom I have access. So now we're going to look at the actual child, the new one you just created from your model, right? Yay, and here it is. Once you go look for it, you're going to see it here, authorization. It is cross-funded because you copied a cross-funded document. And it's going to be in created status. Okay. If you need to change the travel dates, which I suspect in many instances you will have to from the full trip, you're going to want to open that authorization, go to the general tab, and change your trip dates to whatever they are for that particular person. Okay, that is important. So to do that, you're going to navigate to your itinerary location section, click the radio button next to the location, click edit, change your travel dates, and then click save. Okay, so once you're back on the general information tab, what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to go to the travel date section of the screen of the general information tab. And then again, update your travel dates so they're not the full length of that mission to what you just put on your itinerary screen. The only thing you need to remember here is click the button that says reset per diem conditions, because right now this document has per diem lodging and M&IE for the entire month of that trip. And you want to shorten that to just these dates. So if you put these dates in there, click the reset per diem conditions and save changes, it will change the entire trip for this particular traveler to just the 1st through the 8th. And then it will also take away all the per diem for lodging and M&IE for the rest of the trip as well. You'll only have your per diems for those dates. Okay, and then once the screen refreshes, the next thing you're going to do on the general tab again is you're going to see your box here that says add this travel to an open group or surge blanket. Again, you're going to choose the parent off. It should be the only one in the drop down. I can't imagine you're going to have too many active ones. And once you have created a parent and that mission is over and you lock it, it won't show up in this drop down anymore. Okay, so it will only be here if it's still active. So hopefully you only have one at a time, maybe. So then you're going to choose the appropriate parent to associate this trip to and click Save Changes. Okay, and again, make sure that your organization is reflecting your cross-funded organization. It should automatically be there. And then update your routing list for that child authorization. And again, it should be cross-funded CDC, and the employees can do that themselves. So in this particular situation, they've got all of the same expenses. I don't have a screenshot on here. I don't. All of the expenses that you put on that model child will copy to this one. So really the only thing that the employee will need to do here is, again, update these trip dates, add the travel to the parent, and then update the routing list if the employee is doing this themselves. Okay. Any questions on the child authorization?
Question. This is Felipe, Melissa. If there's any kind of issue with the parent document, is there a chance that that could affect all the clones? Like if it gets like rejected, returned, or goes into pending UFMS?
Well,
Will that affect all the clones?
So keep in mind that your parent and your model child authorization, which is the model child is the one you're going to clone. The model child and the parent never route. They never go to CTIP. They never go to the financial system. They are contained completely within Concur Gov, so they'll never reach those statuses.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The authorizations, and that's a good question, and to follow up on that, the child authorizations that are created from the model are their own independent entities, other than the fact that they are associated with that parent for reporting at this point. Because once you've copied it, your expenses are there, update the routing list, your cross-funded is there. That's why I say you can change you can add expenses to the child that's actually going to process. You can remove expenses, make sure that routing list is updated. They are now their own little independent children leaving the nest. Okay. The parent and the model child, the good child that never leaves the basement, they're still at home. These little children are leaving the nest and they can be manipulated however you need to do. So, okay.
Melissa, I had a question. With since you were talking a lot about the cross-funded travelers, sometimes we have rosters that contain both cross-funded and ASPR employees. Is it best to use the approach of a parent authorization for cross-funded and then a parent authorization for ASPR employees related to the same mission?
So here's my question. I feel like I've heard this question before. I think Janelle asked me this too previously. And I'm not sure I gave a satisfactory answer at the time. I want to make sure I fully understand the question. So if you have a roster of people and some are, and I'm just going to make something up. I'm trying to give an example so I can make sure I understand the question properly. Some are, say, coming from, they're all going to travel for ASPR, right?
Yes.
Some are coming from CDC, IHS, whatever, but they're all traveling for ASPR under the same org, correct?
Correct.
Right. So let's say ASPR, HHS, PAN, ABC.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so creating it as cross-funded is what I would recommend, and using HHS, PAN, ABC. Because here's why. It's not going to negatively impact the ASPR travelers at all if they're already in that org. The question becomes is whether or not you want those ASPR people to actually travel in that particular org, or their actual home org because they're ASPR. Now, again, the child authorizations are independent little babies. So even if this is created as cross-funded, so say I created or you created a traveler list, right? Janelle's on it. You've associated her. This is her document. Let's just say that. You've associated her. So you created it as cross-funded. You've updated her travel dates. You've associated her with the parent. If you do not want it to be actually cross-funded, okay, for Janelle, because she's already ASPR, then you can come here and just change it back to Janelle's normal organization profile. It depends on how many you have of each, right? So if you have two ASPR people, it's easier just to go into their actual child auths and change them to the proper ASPR org and routing list, if that's what you wanted to do, and not make it a cross-funded routing list. So you can make those changes yourself independently in those documents. Just because it says it's cross-funded because it was created that way, doesn't mean you can't change the org and the routing list, because you can.
Okay.
So if you have two people, you want to go into those two child authorizations and change that. If most of them are ASPR, you might want to do it the other way around. If you have two that are IHS, for instance, everybody else is ASPR, you might want to do it the other way around.
Okay.
Or, you know, Rube brought up, I think it was Rube who brought up a good point. You could create two model children. One that's
Okay.
cross-funded and one that's not.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. Okay.
A follow-up question on that. Are either the model children and or the non-model children, are they able to have a separate itinerary location from the parent?
Yeah, you can change the itinerary location. Yes, you can.
Cool.
I would not change it. I would not. Yes, from the parent. Yes. So the model, you can change that. So if you create a parent and you put an itinerary location on the parent, you can change it on the model. Absolutely. But if the model has the same itinerary location as the parent and the child needs to be a different one, you can change it there too. Sure you can. But just remember, if you change it on the model, every time you clone that model, that itinerary location is going with it.
Good
Right.
copy.
Yeah.
And my thought process earlier about the multiple children is if there were multiple staging locations, you could have one child at each location, or one model child for each location.
You could, again, you can create as many model children as you deem necessary. So I don't want to get inside of what your process is or what makes life easier for you. Just keep in mind that when it comes to Concur, keeping things simpler is better. So if you don't have to have 3 different model children for 3 different itinerary locations, that would be best. And then just change the children. See what I'm saying? But if it works best for you, if you've got 50 people going to one location, 50 going to another, and 50 going to a third, it might make more sense to have 3 model children for those 3 different locations than have to independently go into the children and manually make those changes. That's up to you to decide.
So to piggyback on Marquita's question, do you have a recommendation on whether it would make sense to just have a separate surge list, separate parent for each location, as opposed to making a model child for each location? Is there a better way for the system to prevent errors?
Not for the system. And again, it really comes down to what you want to see in terms of your reporting and ease of use for you. Because keep in mind that the purpose of the parent is to have one mission tying everything together. So if you want to pull a report that says, tell me everybody who traveled for this trip to Kenya or this trip to Disney World, okay? They have to be tied to that parent for all of those documents to be reported on. If you have 2 of them, now you have to remember you have 2. So you can do it system-wise, it doesn't matter. How you use it, it's just dependent on what's best for you. So. I answer everybody's questions?
I have one question. So when you create a parent and then you create a model child, is that only accessible to the person that created that, or is that accessible to anyone within the travel office?
The parent can only be seen by other people who have the UFMS system admin role. That's the only people who can see that, right?
The high glass role. Okay.
And high glass, right? If you're CMS, right? And high glass. The children can be seen. Yes, they can by other people. They are just a regular authorization. So the model child can be seen by other people who have access to your documents. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
If it's a cross-funded traveler from an org that we don't have access to, if they're added to the list with the parent, will that then open up access to the non-FADA people working on the document?
Say that again. If the model are we talking about the model child?
Sorry. If there's a cross-funded traveler that the FADA can see that I can't see, but they establish a parent and add that cross-funded traveler to the traveler list, once they're on that list, am I able to view them from the drop down am I able to manipulate the profile, or will I still not have visibility of that traveler?
You still, your visibility is going to be the same as you would always have. So you can add them to the list because again, so no, the answer is no, you would not have visibility into them, even though you were able to add them to your list. The idea behind this functionality, and I know in real world, there are challenges there with the concept, but ideally the employee should be doing these themselves. So once you've copied that authorization for that person, which you can, okay, then that person should be notified and given a list of 5 things. This you now have your authorization is created. Now this is what you need to do. And the employee should technically be able, in theory, be able to do it themselves. They can technically, but in theory and in practice, they should be able to do it themselves as well. If you need access, that's something that, you can bring up to us and, for a particular traveler, we can talk about that. But overall, yes, the idea is for the traveler to do it themselves. So no, you would not be able to do all of that for them if you did not have group access to them.
Good copy. That makes sense. So just to clarify, once we establish the search blanket and a parent, we could then just send the instructions for the cross-funded travelers to add themselves to the list and process their own travel?
No. You have to add them to the list. You only you can add them to the list. Can add anybody to the list. You own that list. What you would do is after you create the model child under your name and you copy that model to that traveler. So now that traveler, when they go in to concur, they're going to see a brand new authorization sitting there that you created for them. So that's when you want to give them instructions on, okay, you have a new auth that I created for you. Now this is what you need to do to process your authorization and take your trip.
Good copy. That's very helpful. Thank you.
If I may, just to clarify, Lee Fada has the same access as you. PSC took the HHS, so I too can only see ASPR travelers.
That's correct.
Sorry, so when we get a roster for travel, who's creating the parent records for us?
Who's creating the parent authorization?
Yeah, correct. Is that a ticket to PSC?
No, you create that parent authorization. So when you go into, let's go back to, and we're gonna have a demo on this right after this presentation. When you go into Concur, if you have, again, the UFMS high glass role, sysadmin role in your profile, you have to have that. When you go into new authorization, so you're creating the parent, new authorization, your name, okay, my name. I put the cross-funding organization for the trip and then choose limited open auth as my document type. This is when you're creating the parent. So you're creating the parent. And then, go ahead.
So, well, for the sake of the example, let's say I have that high glass privilege, but I don't have visibility of the non-ASPR employee. How do I add them to the list so that we can copy them to a model child so that they can process their own travel?
Right. So when you go to either manually or via import, you can add whoever you want. If you have this access, the UFMS high glass sysadmin access, when you create your traveler list, okay, and you go to add someone manually or via import, so this is manually, or you put them on the import spreadsheet, this you have access to everyone. Okay, so you can add everyone to the list in HHS, not just ASPR people. Okay, this is the one place that is overridden, that group access is overridden.
So I think I'm tracking. So I may have misunderstood, Janelle. Sorry, what you just said. So Janelle has that access, if I'm not mistaken. So she would be able to see the cross-funded travelers to add them to the list.
Janelle was just saying that she no longer has access to all travelers in the system. And that's true. There was a time period where lead FADAs were granted access to all travelers in general in Concur. That has since been rescinded. So Janelle has access to only ASPR. So let's say for the sake of, but for this, you don't need that group access to all of HHS. You get it no matter what, provided you have that UFMS high glass sysadmin role in your profile. So Janelle has that. So even though right now Janelle only has access to ASPR people, right? Normally, if Janelle were to try to add someone manually outside of ASPR, she could. Because for this functionality only, it will allow you to pull from any organization, not just ASPR.
No, that's perfect. That's how I understood it, and I misunderstood Janelle's clarification. For the purposes of this functionality, whoever has high glass access can see all HHS employees.
Right. Right. UFMS. Yes. For here. But the point is, You can add them to this list. You can copy and create a child document for them because you have access to the model because it's your document, right? But once it's created, it's really up to the employee to finalize their trip if you don't have access to their documents. Okay?
Good copy. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Melissa, I know, I had one follow-up question. So, I think Waldo was asking about this earlier. With oftentimes we'll get a roster with information and we'll start preparing it, but then information changes. I don't know where if it should be the parent, the model child, that we're going back and making the changes to that, you know what I'm saying? Do you are you following me? Okay.
I'm following you. Okay. So it's going to depend on when the change happens. It's going to depend on where you update things. So if you've only, say for instance, you've only created the parent and you haven't done anything else. And so you've created the parent for travel dates January through March or something. And then someone with going to Haiti, I'm making things up, right? And then someone comes and says, no, the trip dates are now going to be through August, right? If you've only created the parent, just go to the parent, make the changes, you're solid, right? You're good. However, remember that once the child authorizations have been created, they are now independent entities. So if something changes after that, they will have to be individually changed.
And does that include the model child too, or would we be able to change the model child if we haven't made other child authorizations?
You could change the model child. Yes, you could.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does that include even like the CAN situation as well? Because in the initial phases of response, we'll get like a surge CAN that's given to us until an MA is assigned from FEMA, which has the then correct CAN associated with whatever location. So would it be the model child that we would also make that change to then put on?
If you have not created any child authorizations from that model, yeah, just change it in the model. And then when you copy the model, whatever changes you made in the model will flow down to the new children. If you already have created children,
we're stuck.
They're going to have to be independently updated, yes.
Okay.
Or deleted if there's no reservations on them at that point, delete them and then start over again. But again, it's going to depend on when that happens, what stage you're at when these changes come through.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we've already did these. Let's see. Okay. All right, so this is the last screen that we were on. So to review and to finalize, again, the model child, you're going to want to review and update the authorization as well as so before you copy anything, review, make updates to it, put the line of accounting on there, add and remove expenses. For the actual children, you're going to add reservations to it after the child has been created and is now sitting in the employee's box. They should be able to add travel reservations, and we have a job aid for that as well. And again, for cross-funded, this is just a reminder, the traveler has to have an IBA if it's going to be cross-funded. Okay, so if you're using Surge Blanket with cross-funded, those travelers need to have an IBA in their profile. And then the child authorization, again, not the model, but the other child authorizations will route for processing after you've added any additional expenses, double-checked everything, added your reservations, and then signed it, it will route for processing as normal. And to recap, again, you create your parent, create your list, add your travelers to your list, create your model, and then you copy that model child as many times as needed. And then they will add reservations and route those child documents. Okay. Are there any questions on what we just went through before we jump into the demo?
I just had one more question. Since you explained the high glass sysadmin role, I wanted to understand, because I believe that's with the lead FADA role, that is given. My team, they're not FADAs, so would they be expected to adhere to that biannual training in order to have this function to use this?
So well, the functionality is there for people. So those are kind of two separate things. The
Okay.
functionality is there for people with the appropriate access to utilize it. The training itself, is more of a question of that separate entity because that's an overall training. That's not specific to this functionality. And that training does need to be taken by sysadmins. And I don't know how much if you were on the last leaf fodder or if the question was asked, I can't honestly recall. Obviously, we have one coming up here in a couple days if you have additional questions. But it's considered privileged user. So that's any variation of system administrator does have to take one of the two certification courses, either the long one or the abbreviated one, if that answers your question. But it's not specific to this functionality. That training is not, they're not connected. Like, again, the functionality is there. If you know how to use this functionality right now and you wanted to use it right now, you could. It's on. So they're not directly related to each other.
But I think
Okay.
the concern is, Melissa, it's only on for me, but I don't process rosters.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. And I think because we do have a couple slides on this in the lead FADA on Thursday. I would I'll take that back internally, and then if we don't mention it proactively on the lead FADA, I would recommend you guys bring it up. If you need that lowered to a different level, just voice your opinion at that point. Because Manny ultimately makes that decision. He is the system owner.
Will do.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to stop sharing and be quiet and turn this over to Mary for your live demo.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. So Melissa has just fed you a lot of information in 5 steps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the live demo to show you how those 5 steps are actually can be consolidated down pretty simply, if I can talk now. I'm sorry. All right, so we're going to start with starting with our parent authorization. So you're going to open up Concur, obviously, and we're going to start creating our authorization. Now we're going to create our new authorization, and first of all, we're going to create our parent, and we're going to create it as a limited open auth.
Mary, did you want to mention why you don't see the cross-funded box there? Remember last time?
Oh yeah. Sorry, Melissa, my brain just went blank. I'm sorry. I do know this.
That's okay. If you noticed, when Mary was choosing limited open auth, you did not see the cross-funded box option.
Yeah, because I'm in HHS. That's why. I apologize.
Yeah, she's in HHS, and HHS is not configured for cross-funded. Obviously, nobody travels in organization HHS. So that's why that's not there. But for everybody else, that box is there as normal. So just FYI.
Like I said, I knew the answer. It took me a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the parent. We're going to go to San Diego in January is what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and create an authorization here for Surge Blanket Travel for San Diego in January. So we're going to go ahead and San Diego Surge Blanket Travel. Let's go ahead and down here, go to itinerary. Let's see, San Diego, San Diego, California. Now let's go to January, because that sounds like a nice warm place to be, right? For the month. And as Melissa said, we're going to set the maximum days for per diem override. As she said before, this is the first time you're probably going to see this. Lodging 31 days, as it has 31 days in January. Save and close. So now we're going to create the document. As this is the parent document, we're not going to add any expenses to this. But as you will see here on the totals, we're going to see, you will see the lodging and M&IE here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sign our document. No warnings, no errors. We're good. We're going to change this and we're going to put it in search parent active. I can type. All right. Now I have my parent authorization. I have completed step 1. Now that I have completed step 1, I can go
Hey,
ahead.
Mary?
Yes,
Sorry, not to mean to interrupt. When you labeled it as surge parent active, is that locked now? Like the parent?
it is locked. It is
Okay.
locked and active. That means that it cannot go through UFMS. If I was a high glass person, it can't go through high glass. It cannot.
Mary, I think we lost you.
But
Okay.
yeah, it is locked, but it is active. So authorizations can be created off of.
Like we're losing Mary a little bit.
It go through any financial system.
Mary, you're
Uh-oh.
breaking. You're going in and out. I don't know if you want to turn your camera off or I'm not sure, but maybe keep it on so we can tell when you freeze. I'm not sure. If that keeps up, I'll just take
Can you
over.
hear me now? All right,
I
can
can-
you hear me now? Is that any better?
That does seem to be better.
Okay, so with the search parent active, what that does is, yes, it locks it. It does not allow it to go through any of the financial systems, but it does allow any authorizations to be created off of it. As soon as it goes into search parent lock, though, it does no further authorizations can be created off of it.
Copy. So it's active, so you can create your model child and then children, and then you go back in there and lock it at some point, I take it?
You lock it as soon as the mission's over. So say at the
Okay.
end of January, no other missions are needed, everything's done, everything's complete. Then
Okay.
you can take it to search parent lock because no other authorizations need to be created.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Mayor.
Now that we have our search parent active, we're going to go over here and we're going to create our search blanket traveler list. As Melissa had stated earlier, we're going to, first of all, we're going to find ours, and then we're going to San Diego. Okay, and if I want to put in notes here, I would put in notes over here. I'll just copy and paste that. Now I got my list ID, and when I click on that, that's where I get my managed traveler IDs. As Melissa had stated earlier, the first person you want to put in there is yourself so that you can make your model child. So I'm going to go ahead and do add traveler. And as we all know that the system is finicky, so I put myself in and first and last name. If I can even spell my own name, hello. So I'm going to find my profile here. I'm going to specify travel dates, and I'm going to put myself in here for the full travel just because I am creating the model after myself. So fill dates and save. So I am in here now. And I've created, so I can use that now to create the model child. But I also want to create, be able to create others in here as well. What I've done is I've also added, I've created a sheet here so that I can show you how to do the import. And if I want to import a traveler list, what I can simply do is, because I've already saved this as a CSV file, as you know, Melissa has stated in the training, it has to be a CSV file. As long as Concur is going to cooperate with us. Okay, hold on, let me save this again, because I thought I saved it to my desktop. Oh, no, I saved it to documents. My apologies. Okay, there it is. I'm going to upload it. And then import. And now this only imports line by line. So if I do have a failed line, then it will tell me that I had a failed line.
Looks like you had a pop-up blocker there for some reason, Mary.
Go back.
We might try it again.
I couldn't see it because of this lovely bar, Melissa.
That thing is so annoying.
Lovely bar that you're always.
But when you're presenting, there's a box up there that covers up a bunch of things, so Mary can't see the top of her screen.
Try this one more time. Import. Ah, there we go. I love how slow Concur is. To errored, to process to errored. So it doesn't look like it took either one of those two. But so that's how you would do it. So it's not taking my two that I put in there for whatever reason.
Why don't I just add one manually, Mary? Or you can try it again if you want.
Try it again. See what it does. I don't know why this is being such a pain. If it doesn't work, I'll add it manually. Pop-up blocked. I did see that. See if it comes back with 2 errored again.
Let's take a, can I take a look real quick at your import document? Your CSV file? Can you show that? You don't have a list ID in there, Mary. You need to put your list ID number in there.
Of course, I knew I was missing something. So my list ID is 5. Always missing something. All right. See how important filling in the correct fields are? Okay. See what this has to tell me now. Nope, it still didn't do it. So, all right, so I'll just do it manually. So add traveler. So I was trying to add, let's see. So I was trying to add Chris Jorgensen. Let's send him. I want to send him the 9th through the 20th. And then let's add Melissa Stecklow, and let's add her. Let's send her for the entire month. Just because, you know, she probably needs a vacation, right? All right, so now we have our list. So because I need to create the model child after me, I'm going to go back over here to new authorization. And as you saw, so I don't, once again, I don't have the authors or the ability to create under cross-funded because I am under HHS, but I'm going to go ahead and create this as auth. And I'm going to create this as San Diego Surge Blanket. That in here. And camp duty travel. Because I am because I put myself on the list for Surge Blanket travel, I do have this option to add to my list for Surge Blanket. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. Add myself to that tandem here. Okay, now I'm going to go down here because I am doing this one as the child. This is going to be for the full month. Okay, so I want this one to be for, I'm going to create this one for the full month, and I'm going to add any expenses that I feel, any generic expenses that I feel anybody's going to need, such as extra baggage fees, gas, rental car. So let's see here. add my baggage fee. They're gonna probably maybe need a rental car, so gas. So let's see, let's add another expense for gas. Gasoline for rental car. Let's move this to probably need to fuel up after the first day or so. So, oh, gas is so expensive. So let's put in $100 for gas. So, okay. Now let's just say that I filled this whole entire thing out and we got everything in there. I've filled everything out. I put in all the different expenses. And so I've got all my expenses in here and I've figured out everything that I think I've got everything in here that everyone's going to want. Now I'm going to go here to sign document.
Mary,
Oh,
did you add your line of accounting and update?
nope, I did not. I did not. Sorry, I jumped the gun here. Sorry, I jumped the gun. My apologies. Come on. Profile tab takes forever.
Don't forget your line of accounting.
Yep. I'll do line of accounting first because it's
Now, remember, while this is searching, if you had created this as cross-funded, this would auto-populate with that. You wouldn't have to type in the organization like Mary just did. It would automatically be there for you. But you still would have to add the line of accounting.
hit the wrong button. I always do that. I always go down there and hit close instead of add to document. I don't know why. All right, profiles. Let's see if profile tab will open up now for me. Everybody knows profile tab takes forever, so just be patient with it. And of course, it just seems to take forever, even more so when you're presenting.
If it takes too long, Mary, you've got the line of accounting and the expenses. You can just copy this and move on. We all know what's on the profile tab is two fields, the organization and the routing list. Because we're already a half an hour over on this. I don't want to take up too much more time. I know everybody's busy.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna move on because yeah, profile tab definitely takes forever. It just does not like to open. So now we're gonna go ahead and move forward, signing the document.
Okay, Mary, you don't have to sign the child. Yeah,
Oh,
I just
sorry, I thought we did.
Not the model.
Model. All right, so now that I have this, I'm gonna go ahead and close my document. I'm gonna grab Chris's ID here. And I'm going to take my model child here. I'm going to copy document. Okay. And I hit tab. And as you can see, as soon as I did that, it filled in his information down here for Chris Jorgensen. Now I'm going to hit save. Document was copied successfully. So now if I go in here and I act on behalf of him, he has an authorization in here going to San Diego. Now this says the 1st through the 31st. His dates that I wanted him to go were I'm going to edit this because I only wanted him to go the 9th through the 20th. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Save this. I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to make sure that the tandem for the search blanket reset per diem conditions. Save changes. I would then make sure to go into profile, double check that the information in profile is accurate, especially for cross-funded travel. If you go under accounting, as you can see, accounting information is there as well.
And can you show them the expenses that you added? Did also copy, Mary?
Yeah, right here. Baggage fee, gas, it's all in there. So there's the 5 steps, pretty much condensed. You have the parent that I created. I created the model child, and then I started creating the authorizations. Now, once the trip is over and everything is said and done, and there's no other authorizations to be created, I can go over here to my authorization, and as long as once the mission's over, then it's this one. I would take and move this and moved it to surge parent lock. I would move it to surge parent lock so no other authorizations can be created. Now, that does not mean that the current authorizations that are open under this parent cannot continue to be routed, because they can. It just means that no other parent or no other child authorizations can be created. So make sure that before you do this, that all authorizations are done. Questions?
I just want to say thank you to both of you. We actually have another meeting that we have to get to now, but I did want to see if it was possible to, because I'm sure the team has questions, but we just don't have time right now. I don't know if next Tuesday you are available, maybe at the same time or at 1 our time. I know you guys are a couple hours behind, so whatever works. And also because we have a couple team members who are not here today that will be in attendance next week. So if that's possible, we would love the opportunity to kind of ask questions on how everything went, seeing it in real time, and then asking any more questions about going through the whole process.
We'll follow back up with you on that. So we'll take a look at that calendars and whatnot and circle back with you on it, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both taking the time and going through this with us today.
Thank you all for attending. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Bye.
Thanks.